Tag, you're it. Second string. You're coming off the bench, second string. Your turn to do the introduction to the podcast.
Exactly.
Welcome to episode 81 of Degenerate's Clubhouse, presented by Michelob Ultra.
Have we started?
Yeah.
Oh, that was real. Okay. I was like, clearly he's just joking, and then when we start, he'll do the real intro. That was it.
Yeah, you didn't hear we got sponsored by Michelob Ultra?
I mean, that would be fantastic. What does this sponsorship entail?
It entails me buying Michelob Ultra and then drinking it.
I don't think you understand how sponsorships work.
Oh, damn. In that case, we're not sponsored by Michelob Ultra.
No. I think we are sponsoring Michelob Ultra the way you've described this.
Michelob Ultra is sponsored by the Degenerate's Clubhouse, or half of the Degenerate's Clubhouse.
It's a very small sponsorship, but
I don't even know why I chose Michelob Ultra. I don't even drink that beer. I couldn't think of anything.
It's because we want to support small businesses like Michelob Ultra.
Yeah.
Make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Because it's hard in these tough times for alcohol vendors to sell their wares, and we're just doing our part apparently.
I think booze sales didn't they like skyrocket on the onset of COVID because like people were just locked indoors and they couldn't do anything else but drink.
There was a lot of day drinking going on for sure. Did you ever day drink during COVID?
Absolutely, a lot. Because for work as an outside sales rep, it was like, hey, you're not allowed to visit customers and stuff, so you're working from home, calling people on the phone and like,
Wait, so you're day drinking and then calling customers?
I'm at home. They can't smell the alcohol in my breath. They don't know if I'm fucked up or not.
I'm just picturing this like drunken call of like, hey,
No.
you want to buy a hose?
No, I didn't get like hammered. I would get like a good healthy, but like I knew I had to be able to write things down if they talk to me or whatever. It was like I had to be intelligible. There was like
so that was your baseline. If I can still master written language,
yeah,
then I'm okay.
And speak without slurring too bad, then yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, but see, that's the tricky part with that is if you're inebriated, you may think you're speaking without slurring, and in actuality is not so good.
I was fine. And I also, because I didn't have to like see people didn't see me, I didn't see them. Before I shaved my hair off completely, I had like a fake dorky mohawk for a while that I rocked for like probably 3 months, 6 months.
So you're making sales call. Mohawk, what was your dress? Your PJs, just shorts and t-shirt?
Yeah.
Mohawk, PJs, day drinking, making sales calls.
Absolutely.
Did you get a lot of sales during that time?
I did. But in general, sales took a dip from the entire nation. Like it wasn't just like everyone's sales took a dip because of COVID. So mine were like on par with that dip. It wasn't like I was like selling more. I was just keeping up with the supply and demand and all that shit. Anyway.
All right. Well, this episode not sponsored by Michelob Ultra.
Michelob Ultra is sponsored by half of the Degenerate's Clubhouse. I can't even say the word anymore. Anyway, we're gonna we'll go back to a beautiful, beautiful segment of Degenerate's history, and this month, this one will feature the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah, I mean this guy might be like just peak degenerate, not in a good way though. I like the degenerates where there's like something almost kind of lovable about them.
Yeah,
like Hans Christian Andersen and his masturbation diary. That was almost endearing in a really perverse way. Marquis de Sade. Well, let's get into it.
Donatien Alphonse Francois. I'm not a French speaker. You're a French speaker, so I may have fucked that up.
I'm un petit peu a French speaker.
Donatien Alphonse Francois
Comte de Sade. Just do it with a Spanish pronunciation. That'll make it funnier.
Donatien Alfonso Francois Comte de Sade.
Nice.
Better known to history as the Marquis de Sade from 1740-1814, was a French aristocrat who became so notorious for his deviant sexual practices, perversions, and erotic writings, which combined pornography with philosophy and violent sexual fantasies. That his name gave rise to the term sadist and sadism.
Okay. I didn't know that. How crazy is that?
I didn't know that either.
This dude was so fucked up. They're like, we have to invent a new word.
Yeah. You like putting things in your butt while simultaneously pinching your nipples and piercing some chick's clit.
Okay, we just got insight into Mondo's Pornhub saved. Are there saved videos in Pornhub? I'm assuming.
No.
Wait, so wait, hold on. So if there was gonna become Mondoist or Mondoism, what would that describe? Sadist is obviously someone who's just
Mondoism? It'd be sitting on the couch, watching movies and playing video games while masturbating simultaneously.
Okay, we're just gonna move on from that. That was too much. We're sitting not far away from Mondo's living room.
Yeah.
So I had like a vivid mental image of everything happening. I'm like, oh yeah, he's right on that couch. He's playing video. Oh my god. Okay. Let's moving on. Back to the Marquis decide.
Dick in one hand.
Okay. No, I don't need any more.
Xbox controller in the other.
Please stop.
An advocate of radically unrestrained freedom, Desaad's sexual fantasies, emphasis on violence, criminality, and blasphemy, and his real-life partaking in criminally violent sexual practices kept him behind bars in prisons and insane asylums for most of his adult life. He spent 32 years behind bars, including 10 years in the Bastille. Whoa. Holy shit.
Yeah, if you don't clean up your act, Mondo, that's what's waiting for you.
32 years in jail.
Stop jerking off to Elden Ring.
Dude, there's some partial nudity in that. Anyway. He was addicted to prostitutes from early on, and even more addicted to mistreating them. In early 1760s, he first appears in the record after numerous Paris prostitutes complained of his mistreatment, which led to several short jail stints before he was exiled from Paris to his countryside residence. The details of the abuse are murky, but the fact that a French aristocrat ended up behind bars based on his treatment of prostitutes indicates seriousness.
Yeah, for real. Like, how fucked up do you have to be? Where in what did it say? 1760,
yeah.
Where like they're going to the French. I think they were called like the constabulary or something, and the prostitutes are like, "Oh no, this man he's very bad," and they're like, "Yeah, prostitutes, get out of there." And then they tell them what they did, and they're like, "Oh no, this is terrible." Très mal.
Très mal? Is that how you say it?
Very bad.
His first big scandal occurred in 1768 when he lured a street beggar to his home with an offer of housekeeping job, then tore off her clothes, tied her to a sofa, and alternated between flogging and pouring hot wax on her. His victim finally escaped without a second-floor window.
Out of a second-floor
window, but his family made the ensuing investigation go away with a royal decree that removed the case from the jurisdiction of the courts. This is not unlike what could and probably has happened in real life. Like, think about it. How many fucking the whole Epstein?
Well, this did happen in real life, but yeah. you mean more recently?
Yeah. How many fucking people of power or whatever got away with some pretty.
Well, the difference now is I think there's a lot more legal proceedings. So he'd be like, if this was now, the Marquis de Sade would be like, all right, housekeeper, I'm going to hire you, but I'm going to need you to sign this non-disclosure agreement about your housekeeping. And she's like, oh, why do we need the non-disclosure agreement? Just sign it. And then, flash forward to she's jumping out a second-story window. Jesus, that's really bad. I think nowadays you couldn't probably get away with the level of what he's doing.
Again, if you're from a powerful family or you've got lots of money, some of this stuff can get hush-hushed or, swept under the carpet or... Oh,
and it definitely does. I just don't know to that level. I don't think you can just kidnap somebody straight off the street, torture them. And I mean, I think they've gotten a little bit more devious, and I say just a little bit because, yeah, some of the stuff they do is pretty outrageous.
Another scandal followed in 1772 when Desaad and his body servant sodomized prostitutes in Marseille after incapacitating them with doses of Spanish fly.
So that's what I learned. I'm like, oh wait, apparently Spanish fly is a real thing.
Yeah.
Or it was, but what is in it? I mean, I thought it was just supposed to be like an aphrodisiac.
It kind of is. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were briefly discussing Bill Cosby and how Bill Cosby had an actual joke about Spanish Fly. Fast forward, 20 years later, and
Uh-huh.
the dude's drugging chicks and boning them. He did a little cocktail. Anyway, they skipped the trial, fled to Italy, and were sentenced to death in absentia. They were caught and imprisoned in Savoy, but escaped after a few months and hid in Desaad's rural castle in southeast France.
As you do.
Because everyone has a castle, There,
Mine is in Colorado Springs.
you have a castle in Colorado Springs?
Yeah. You don't?
No.
Fucking get on it, Mando.
Isn't
What are you doing with your life?
Isn't the Springs kind of? I don't know. I don't know that I've spent a lot of time there. But isn't it kind of ghetto in Colorado Springs?
Yes, and so it used to be like really like religious extremist, and then people have just started moving there because they can't afford Denver. So it's actually parts of it are pretty nice. I was down there when I had to get the first vaccination. I went down to Colorado Springs, and I'm like, wow, this place is way nicer than I remember. So I can't afford a castle in Colorado Springs. You know what? Fuck you, Mondo, for tearing down my fantasy world.
Can you afford a castle in Castle Rock?
No.
Waka waka waka.
That good. Hold on.
Yay!
Still
Golf clap. Anyway, there, Desaad had a high turnover of employees as he kept hiring youngsters and domestics, only for them to quit within a short time, complaining of the Marquis' sexual predation and mistreatment. When the parents of local boys and girls complained to the authorities, Desaad was forced to flee to Italy once more until things quieted down. He returned in 1776 and resumed his perversions. Finally, the authorities tricked Desaad in 1777 into going to Paris to visit his supposedly sick mother. Unbeknownst to him, she had actually died.
Get pranked, loser.
Dummy. Hey, your mom's sick.
I really hope. I mean, this didn't happen, but in my imagining of this, like he goes into her room and there's a figure like wrapped up in the deathbed, and he pulls the covers back. It's like, mother, and then it's just one of the police officers. And he's like, you're under arrest.
Say what you can about him being a sexual deviant. At least he cared for his mama.
That's and that's probably where all of it started, to be honest.
There he was arrested and locked up in the dungeon of a royal fortress. He kept there in harsh conditions until 1784, when he was transferred to the Bastille, where he remained until transferred to a mental asylum 2 days before that. Famous prison storming in 1789 kicked off the French Revolution.
Yeah, they have Bastille Day. That's like their July 4th in France.
Oh.
Because there was a bunch of corruption, and they stormed the Bastille and broke everybody out,
including Desaad.
Well, it sounds like he was transferred. So
Desaad was released in 1790 amidst France's revolutionary turmoil. Taking to the new order, he took to calling himself Citizen Saad, and within months got himself elected to the National Convention as a representative of the far left.
No, that's impossible. There could never be a politician that was a sexual deviant. That is not a thing that happens. Stop. Now this is clearly fiction.
Yeah, he barely survived the Reign of Terror, during which he was imprisoned for a year, emerging from jail in 1794, utterly destitute. In 1801, Napoleon Bonaparte ordered his arrest for pornographic and blasphemous novels he had written a decade earlier, and had him imprisoned without trial. In 1803, his family had him declared insane and transferred from prison to a mental asylum. There he continued writing and staged plays with inmates as actors.
All right. Wait, hold on. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, I kind of forgot this was a thing. Back in the day, before they had, certainly before they had video cameras, but even before they had photography and print photography, there were like porn novels.
Nice.
I've never read one, but that would be kind of almost interesting.
Well, think about it. There's like the trashy romance novels. They're like the next closest thing. Like 50 Shades of Grey has got to be in that category of just trash.
Yeah, but like, what was this sick fuck writing about? Like,
sick sex stuff.
I wonder if those novels are out there, just like a straight up porn novel, where I'm trying to like draw a correlation. Like, what would be the equivalent of like a Pornhub but in novel form?
A Pornhub in novel form?
Yeah, like a because
Like a choose your own adventure of porn?
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Well, because here's the deal.
Do you like big tits? Turn to page 192, and then her big, swollen, voluptuous breasts popped out of her shirt. It's kind of be like that, right?
Do you stick the giant dildo in hole A or hole B?
Ooh, or hole C.
What's hole? I don't want to know.
Oh, mouth.
Yeah.
But
Okay, there's
JJ,
three.
what
What is hole E?
Probably ears.
Okay, we're sorry. We're traveling too far down this line of. See what you've done to us. Even now, Marquis de Sade, you're a bad influence. But the second thing is this motherfucker was staging sex plays with prison inmates.
Yeah.
How does that conversation go?
Well, it's the beginning of like guys wearing women's clothing probably, and like, you know.
But like you know what? I'm forgetting. These are French prisons. It's maybe a little bit different mentality than what we're used to in the U.S. We've really, I think we've probably taken prison to a new level here. They're maybe a kindler, softer version of prisoner.
Probably not. His writing career finally came to an end in 1809 when the police ordered de Sade kept in solitary confinement and deprived him of pen and paper, and that was it for the article. Yeah, so he was basically he was like, if you think about it, he was kind of like a Hugh Hefner before Hugh Hefner.
More of a Larry Flint.
Okay, yeah, more of a Larry Flint. I'll give you that. Except for Larry Flint got away with it for the most part. I mean, even though he's prosecuted and stuff, he didn't have to do jail time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a there seems like there's like a line that Larry Flint sort of would wheel himself back and forth across in his wheelchair, and the Marquis de Sade was like, "Oh, there's the line. I'm running past that line, and now I'm on like the horizon, like far in the distance." I mean, yeah, as far as I know, Larry Flint never abducted someone off the street. That's the one that I'm just like, okay,
we don't know.
Wait, okay. Marquis de Sade's 120 Days of Sodomy appears to be one of the works. He wrote a book called 120 Days of Sodomy.
Pretty good.
Monday, sodomy.
Is that like
Tuesday? Sodomy.
Is that like 28 days later, but with sodomy?
Sodomy. He wakes up in the hospital. Why is my asshole sore?
No. Oh Jesus. That was it for Degenerate's history. Moving on to a little bit more current into the interwebs.
Oh fuck! And by the way, just in case you guys are interested, available on Amazon, 100 Days of Sodomy, the Marquis de Sade, quote, classics erotica history. Jesus.
Hey, it might be worth checking it out, dude. Maybe it's good.
I wonder if it's on like the books app.
That,
what a crazy world we live in.
That's a new segment we can do is book reports with degenerates, where we read like some fucked up book or novel and give a book report on it.
I mean, we could also just read like a not fucked up novel.
Okay.
Oh wait, hold on. There's a sample available.
Read it.
Okay, let's see. What the fuck? Oh my god, this is the structure. Introduction, part the first day, the second day, the third day, and then it goes all the way on. It really goes to
120 days.
No, it actually goes to 30 days. You know what? Let me go to the first day. Let's just get a quick sample reading before we move on.
Sodomy.
Oh, I can't. Hold on. I can't get to that. Hold on.
Is it in French?
No, it looks like they've translated it. What is happening? I'm trying to get back. I couldn't get that far. I got to go to. Hold on. This is great. This is.
It's all right, dude. Don't we?
I don't know how to get back to the.
You broke it.
The part. Yeah, apparently that was too far ahead in the sample. So now I have to scroll all the way back to whatever section this is. There we go. Oh, this is the introduction. The fuck? You know what, Mondo? Cut this whole section.
Sure. I was going to do it anyways.
Perfect.
Anyway, moving on to the newest stuff on the interwebs, the world of Reddit, we're going to go to AskReddit. Reddit question number 1. What's a positive example of boys will be boys?
Do you have one?
Kind of, sort of. A lot of times, like if I were to, when I was a kid, this is just me, like when I was a kid, if I got into trouble, any kind of trouble, and it was just me doing it, like I'm in trouble. I'm in deep shit. You get scolded. You know, we're disappointed in you. Blah blah blah. But if I got into that same amount of trouble with like a neighbor or even like my little brother, I could do the same exact thing and be like, oh, okay, well they're just kind of, boys will be boys. Like I remember, like we couldn't be out past a certain. I think I think we had to be back at home when the street lights were on. Like when those things went on, time to go back home. But if I had my little brother with me, or if they knew I was like hanging with certain dudes and just like getting into shit, like it'd be like, okay, they'd give me a little more leeway, um, where otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. Basically, just having a partner in crime, uh, gave me like a hall pass to get into certain kinds of mischief.
Is that a positive example?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because otherwise I would have. See, look, we all need balance. I think kids, boys and girls, need balance. They need to get into a little bit of trouble. Like, yeah, you want them to get get good grades, et cetera, et cetera. But you can't have them shut indoors and not let them go out and play and get dirty and do shit and get in trouble. And uh, you have to let us get in trouble. And I think you know get letting allowing for someone to be exposed to like a balanced lifestyle, including getting into trouble, is positive.
Oh, okay. You know what? Here, I've got one. I've got one that sort of piggybacks up what you're saying. And this is actually a story that my father told me. Not a real full story, but he told me about his childhood. And I think it just speaks to the fact that like particularly young boys can entertain themselves in like really any scenario. So he was telling me, he was like, yeah, like when we were kids, there was this place we used to go, and there was like old furniture and stuff like that, and we'd like build these forts out of like old couches and like armchairs and stuff, and then we had these games where you have to try to take over the other person's fort. And I remember like thinking as a kid when he told me that, I'm like, man, that sounds like a lot of fun. Like you get to build forts out of furniture and everything, and then it was only years later, for some reason, that story popped into my head, and I was like, "Wait, you fuckers were playing in a dump."
Yeah, yeah,
You just a bunch of like neighborhood kids just somehow found their way into a dump, and we're playing in old discarded trash and furniture. But the way he told it, he was like, "This is the greatest thing ever. Like this was so fun. Like we had adventures and we had
yeah.
the whole." And I'm like, "Yo, you were playing in a dump." And it takes I think like young boys to have fun in a situation like that. I don't think many other people could.
Yeah, and again, in like it, what gave your dad the free pass or the hall pass to do so? Because if he was just thinking about it, if he's by himself, the likelihood of his folks like giving him shit or like, hey, you're in a dumpster, don't do this, you're by yourself. What are you doing, you fucking strange little kid? But when you do it in a group, you're like, okay, you're being a bunch of little shitheads together. At least you're not on your own. But we didn't. I mean, we got into trouble, but our folks kept us pretty much on lockdown. We didn't. But if I had my little brother with me, we can do some shit, and it'd be like, oh well, whatever. In fact, maybe I'm really revealing a little bit too much about our personal stuff here, but like my folks found or my folks were okay with the idea that my brother was a stoner at a much younger age than me, who was like I was supposed to not fuck up. But if I went with my brother and we got stoned together, it was like, okay.
Well, they were like, see, like we tried to really be strict and like make him walk the straight and narrow, and clearly that didn't work. So you know what? We give up.
Well, yeah, again, with like I said, my brother and my sister had more liberties than I. So if I had my little brother with me, we can get into more shit than if I was.
That's usually the way of it, though, isn't it? From sibling dynamics.
Unfortunately, yeah, like the oldest, the oldest kids are usually held to higher standards, and the youngest of the kids ends up getting away with murder, and that's just kind of common.
Wait, Hector killed someone?
No, my sister would have been the youngest
Oh, okay.
of the three of us, but that's just kind of how. And then looking at a big picture, like when you're grandparents, your grandkids can fucking literally murder someone, and your grandkids are like they're still saints in your eyes. My My dad let my dad and mom let my niece and nephew get away with some shit that was like, what the fuck? Like, all right, cool, whatever. It is what it is. Let's see what Reddit has to say about that question. User SFK8486 writes, digging a hole at the beach where a beach that everyone joins in on. I hate when they. Okay, so
Yeah, you've never done that?
yeah, but that's not really. Yeah, it's boys will be boys. Like,
I once we used to, not used to, but like two maybe 3 summers we went to vacation in Maine. And the beaches in Maine are very different from California. Like they're mostly rocks. But there was this like really like long piece of driftwood that had washed up, and like long. I don't know if it was a mast or something like that. And so like as a little kid, I'm like, oh, clearly I need to dig a hole, and then I'll stick the piece of driftwood so it's like sticking up really tall. I was so proud of myself, and that kept me busy a whole afternoon. Good times.
yeah. User Atlas_mornings writes, kept hearing loud smashing noises outside my window, followed by delighted sports game type screams. I went to see what the fuck was going on, and the frat house across the street has set up lawn chairs across from a house being demolished. Every time the demolition crew got a big chunk smashed, the guys would jump off their chairs, screaming and clapping. The demolition crew looked fucking delighted by the attention that the guys stayed and watched the entire thing, cheering until the whole house was torn down. Genuinely one of my favorite college memories, LMAO. So basically a frat house was just partying and cheering a demo crew on. Okay. All right. Last one I'll read. User High Intrepid Hero writes, my boyfriend's little brother and his friend got stuck in a tree because they were trying to see who could get the highest.
I don't know if that's positive.
You know, it's not negative. They're not really hurting anyone. Maybe themselves if they would have fallen off the tree, but
making the fire department feel useful. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, you know what? Across town, a family did burn to death in a fire, but that's fine. It's just they had to see how high they could get in the tree.
Yep. That's it for Reddit question number 1. Reddit question number 2. What is something you discovered about a different culture or religion that completely blew your mind?
Again, you can go first.
So, my very first gig. So let me backtrack a little bit. When I was in college, I was a religious studies minor, and up until then, I was raised Roman Catholic, more or less, but kind of like loosely Roman Catholic. So I went to college and became a religious studies minor, and it kind of opened the door, Pandora's box of just kind of being able to accept cultures and religions for what they are, not really be.
Just to know, Pandora's box was one of the chapters in the Marquis de Sade's novels.
Anyhow, so my first gig out of college.
He also had a chapter called The Burning Bush.
So my first job out of college, I had a Muslim. She was the operations. I think she was an operations manager. I didn't know what the fuck her title was, but she was Muslim, and I'm forgetting what times of day. I'm sure everyone that's Muslim was gonna fucking yell at me for saying so. But there was a certain time of day where she would go into the back room where we kept all of our files and shit, and she would roll out a little carpet, and she would I guess pray and kneel in a certain direction facing Mecca or whatever, and she would do her thing, and we would all kind of obviously would kind of just give her space, or we wouldn't go and bug her. If the fucking roof was burning, it was oh, let's go to the fucking ops manager and have her deal with it. It was oh no, she's doing her prayer thing, let's let her do her thing. But it was a trip to see that for the first time firsthand. And obviously also in a professional setting, which to me was kind of, I shouldn't, it wasn't unusual. It was just unexpected. I was duh, it's somebody's religion. They're going to do it they're going to do it whenever they have to do it, not when they are being told to do it or whatever. But it was kind of cool to see it, to see her do her thing live in front of me. And I was oh shit, it's kind of cool.
Okay. That blew your mind?
It did. Just again, my entire life only exposed to one religion and one way of doing things, and then seeing somebody else do it that wasn't like learning about it in school is one thing, and taking field trips to like mosques and all this other shit, like, and kind of sort of getting exposed to it a little bit was one thing, but like seeing it being practiced. And again, it was kind of weird to me that it was like in a professional setting. It wasn't like someone's doing it in their private residence. It was like someone was doing this at the place of business at work. It was kind of,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, mine was, I guess, was a little bit broader because I had almost no exposure to religion growing up. Right, went to a public school, so like unless you're in like Texas or Florida or whatnot, you don't get a lot of religious exposure in public schools. And like my mom, I don't need to dive into her whole upbringing, but she was like very like anti-religion, like to almost to the point of like it's dumb, like don't even ignore all that. So it wasn't until I was much older that that I even kind of started to understand like what like different religions believed. So growing up, I knew, I'm like, oh, there's like Christianity and there's Judaism and there's Islam, and I just assumed they had like wildly different beliefs, right? Because I did like Greek mythology, and I'm like, yeah, there's like in Greek mythology there's like all these different gods and like they have superpowers and they turn into fucking animals and stuff. I'm like, it has to be like that wildly different.
Yeah.
And then I found out, I'm like, wait, so they all believe essentially the same thing. They just disagree over exactly like how Jesus fit in. Yeah. And like one thinks he's a prophet and one thinks he's the son of God. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that's it? That is the only, and I found this out like way later in life than you would expect. And my mind was legitimately blown. I'm like, wait, there's been like holy wars and crusades and like there's all, but like this is it? It's just this one fucking thing?
Yeah.
Are you guys serious? Like, and I didn't even know that even to the point where it's like Judaism and Christianity, like they use like the same religious text. It's just Christians are like, well, we just have like an update.
Yeah. To add to your point, I also thought growing up, even though we were Catholic, we were told you're Catholic, and I heard the term Christian, and I just always assumed they were different things. Like I didn't. It wasn't until a little bit older that I was like, oh wait, Christianity and Catholicism are the same fucking thing. They're the same thing. Again, a couple little twists and the same thing with like there's a bunch of different offshoots of Christianity. There's like the Baptists and the Methodists and the blah, 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 Lutherans and blah, blah, blah. And all it is just different interpretations of the smallest little details. It's all just kind of like, all right, idiots, it's all kind of the same shit, but just no, mine is more correct than yours. My interpretation is more better.
It's like the Protestants are like very strict, and like the Catholics are vampires.
Do they drink blood?
Yeah. Do you not?
I don't drink blood.
Okay, hold on. So what's communion?
That's the body of Christ.
And what's the
wine is the blood of Christ.
And do you drink it?
I never drank the wine.
Do Catholics drink the wine, which is the blood of Christ?
Yeah.
That's fucking vampirism.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I guess you could say. I guess you could say at one point I was part cannibal because I would eat the bread thing.
Catholics are cannibals and vampires.
Yeah.
You guys heard it here first. But I don't. I mean, obviously, this is said glibly, but like again, like this stuff to me, where I was like, wait, you guys are all basically you're all in the same book. You're just on slightly different pages. This is fucking nuts to me. Like I thought like, it must be like, one religion believes in like aliens or gods and they want to like come and take over the world in spaceships. And then I was like, oh, that's Scientology. So I give Scientology credit for, they're like, no, screw these like nuanced sort of interpretations of essentially the same religion. We're going to be way out there. There's aliens and there's thetans and like, so you know what? Scientology, you are all fucking insane, but I give you points for creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because, it's just a different genre. Like some of us are sci-fi and some of us are more medieval shit. So, these guys chose the sci-fi path. That's all it is.
That's actually, this is a little bit of a tangent, but they're like banning books from schools in Florida, right?
Are they?
Yeah.
Like currently?
No, that's like a thing that has happened. And, so, because it's based on the fact that they're like, well, we can't have our children exposed to books with like sexual themes and stuff like that. So this one dude was like, okay, oh, you're gonna put this as a law? Cool. And he started filing to have the Bible banned in every school district because he's like, there's like rape and incest and like we can't expose our children to stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be successful, but it does speak to a little bit of the hypocrisy. But yeah, no, Florida and I think Texas as well. They're just straight up banning books now.
The whole like Dr. Seuss name change, all that. Oh my God! I'm like, you guys are fucking redonkulous.
So that's actually my marketing plan. It's for me with my book. Step one, I have to get these like injections and like some nerves burned in the back of my head so I can start writing again. So that's step one. Step two, finish the book, and then whenever it's published, guys, don't tell anyone. This is a secret between us and our 4 listeners. I'm going to submit my own book to get banned in Florida. And they'll do it because it does have like a lot of religious themes. And then my book gets banned, and then I just send info to like all these like different like papers, in Colorado. Like, oh, local Colorado author gets banned in Florida.
Yeah,
and then it's fucking on. Let's go.
It's marketing. It's instant marketing to be like it's an esteemed thing to be banned by Florida.
Even if the book like didn't sell a single copy, but I got banned in Florida, I would make that time well spent. It would be a badge of honor.
Oh, yeah. Some of the users on Reddit write, user glitter-Pompeii writes, temple culture in Taiwan. The people who run the temples and put on holiday performances for the respective gods are a community of lost boys and society's rejects. They have an unsavory reputation associated with petty crime and drug use. Each temple is basically a carny street gang with a folk religion theme.
Cool.
They take your real money in exchange for fake money, which you are supposed to burn so your ancestors have money in the afterlife. Insert mandatory inflation joke. Sometimes the temples have rivalries and brawls break out between the devotees during religious festivals and competitions.
That's what like when in a lot of Japanese families, when somebody dies, they'll have like a little shrine in their house to that person, and they'll even like when they're making a meal, they'll make like a small portion and put it on the shrine so their deceased relative can like join in the meal.
Well, we have like Dia de los Muertos, which is we kind of do our own version of the same thing. Usually, there's like alcohol involved and like that's where like the sweetbreads and are like also the candies that are like really decorative. Like that's like, I always thought that was one of the coolest things of our culture. User Airbag Piper writes, in Turkish, there's a so-called gossip tense in quotations, a specific kind of past tense that indicates that someone else told you this. So it's kind of like, hey, this is what I heard. So it's not real fact, but someone else told me this bit of information. Let's see what other users write. User The AutoZone writes, some cultures, your friends treat you on your birthday, and other cultures, you treat your friends on your birthday. An example would be paying for a birthday dinner with friends. Huh. Like marriage is also kind of a culture thing that we don't. There used to be dowries. It used to be like the male would inherit stuff from the bride's family. Like, some cultures would be like fucking animals, like cows and goats and sheep and fucking money and shit. What the hell? I want a dowry. If I'm gonna marry a broad, I want a dowry. What do you think? If like I ended up dating a chick and she's of let's just say she was Indian, and when I mean Indian is like India proper. If she's Indian culture and her folks still like believe the old custom, the old ways of dowries and shit, well, you think it'd be like selfish of me to ask for like, hey man, I want 5 cows. Like,
you gonna keep them in your apartment?
Can I have them cooked or not, or just cut them up into meats, put them in the freezer so I can barbecue them and grill them later? Oh wait, but you can't do that with cows because you think cows
they're
are
sacred. You motherfucker.
Shit.
You know what? The marriage is off. Yep. I don't give you my daughter's hand in marriage anymore.
I fucked up.
You heathen. Have you ever seen the movie The Big Sick?
The Big Sick. Is that the one with Camille Nanjiani?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have seen it. I have seen it like 3 or 4 times.
Excellent movie. That's Pakistan, not Indian, but they do get into a lot of their sort of like marriage customs. That movie was really, really excellent. I just read the screenplay the other night, and the screenplay actually held up just sitting there reading it without even seeing it acted.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
And new on Netflix, we have The Big Sick. No, I'm just kidding.
So that's it for Reddit question number 2, and that's it for Reddit, the segment. We are now going to move on to. So I was texting Aaron.
That's a very inventive name for a segment. How did you come up with that?
So I was texting Aaron one day. I forget what I was doing. I think I was watching a UFC fight or something and drinking, and I was having a good old time. And I think it was Christian Bollicker that called me, or maybe Eric Leiser. One of our Lancer brothers called me, and me and this person had a good conversation back and forth, and we were recounting old stories of back in our old college days. And I thought that'd be kind of a cool little segment for us to tell degenerate tales of back in our old college days of things that we got into trouble, blah 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 blah. So I texted Aaron. I was like, hey, what do you think about this as a segment idea? Us retelling old stupid shit we did. And he's like, hey, yeah. So we're gonna take this opportunity to.
I think what I actually said was, I have a finite number of college stories, and I've told most of them on the podcast already, but sure, let's try it.
Yeah, but you're going to have to help me with this one, because we're going to retell the story of Grand Theft Palm Frond, because I don't think we retold that story in its like entirety, if you will.
We told in an early episode we did tell it, but that's fine.
Did we?
Yeah.
I don't think we told it like in.
That's okay. We can do it again.
Sure. Grand Theft Palm Frond. So we're a member of a fraternity at Whittier College.
Technically a society.
Society, but it's a fraternity, but it's a local one. It's not like one of them nationals with the Greek letters and all the fancy shit. Anyway, we have a couple of big parties. One of the big parties that we did annually was called Monakai. And back in the 80s, 90s, this thing was in Playboy magazine as like the top 10 college parties of all time, blah, 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 blah.
And now it's like a boring Thursday for like a normal fraternity. But yeah, back in the 80s before fraternities had figured out how to throw parties, this was a big deal.
So it was a big deal, and especially because Whittier College has always been kind of Quaker influence. So they're, hate to say it, but they're a little too nose up in the air, a little too goody-goody. They don't want to get into trouble. It's all, religious kind of like be good, goody-goody.
On the levels of partying, you have like there was like the Pilgrims, then you have like the Mormons, the Quakers, and then you get like all on the top of the list. You have these crazy Catholics and their vampirism and cannibalism.
Yeah. So we had this party called Monakai that was Hawaiian themed, and we used to use this when Aaron and I went to school. We used to use this parking garage that was basically underground, for the lack of a better term, and we would set up sand inside the parking garage. We would deck it out. The entire sides of the walls were decked with palm fronds that we would we'll get into that part of the story. We'd have like tiki torches, and we'd have like percussion bands that played like tropical music and DJs and all the whole nine.
It was like we'd send out a request, like, can we find the worst reggae band in the greater Los Angeles area and pay them no money? Yes, we shall do this, and we shall bring them into a poorly lit parking garage with a stage that is approximately 3 inches off of the ground, and they will play terrible music, and drunken co-eds shall dance in front of them. Thus it has been said.
So yeah, so the big thing of it was once a year. It was the biggest party on campus. Everybody would get loaded beforehand because alcohol was not being served at this event. People would show up in swim trunks, swim gear, tropical gear, chicks in bikinis and all that bullshit.
But yeah, the key part of this whole description was that the walls would be decorated.
Yes,
completely covered in palm fronds.
So part of hosting a party of this magnitude is all the behind the scenes shit that most people aren't really privy to, don't really have any. They just show up to the party, have a good time, go away.
So Mondo, where would these palm fronds come from? Like your around the corner palm frond distributor?
No. we would different sources, different years, different times. different states. Sometimes we would have somebody that would sponsor and give us a bunch of palm fronds to use. And some years we weren't so fortunate where we had to go get our own. And on this particular year, we had to go get our own. Where did we decide to get some? Some of us dumb college guys had the bright idea of like, hey, well, I think I saw a bunch of palm fronds over here in this random street off of Beverly and blah, blah, blah.
Well, so I think it was actually less than that. Like one of the alums, if I recall, told us like, oh yeah, we used to get them from the reservoir. There was this big reservoir, and it wasn't a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like we were stealing stuff out of people's lawns. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, like this will be fine. Like they've done it before. This is, the city is actually involved in Monokai, like in loosely, like, so this will be no problem. Like this is just part of the deal. We're fine. I mean, and when I say fine, we did go dead ass in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So like we clearly knew. Yeah, we were like, we're not supposed to really do this, but it's not that big of a deal, or so we thought.
I think the mentality we kind of had was like, better ask for forgiveness than for permission, kind of thing. Like, let's just do it, and we're not going to get in trouble because we've never gotten in trouble in the past. Let's just go get all these palm fronds from this unmarked, undeveloped part of Whittier, and get all these palm fronds, and we'll be fine. Little did we know what had happened. So what we did is we rented like a big old Penske or a Ryder or one of them big fucking U-Haul trucks, and we would go in teams. We had separated ourselves in squads of like, we had, I don't know, I think we were maybe 12 actives at that time. I don't know how many we were, but we would separate ourselves into like unit squad 1, squad 2, squad 3. And so what we did is like squad 1 would go take the U-Haul, cut all the palm fronds, and then squad B would go with the U-Haul truck, fill up the palm fronds, leave squad A there to continue cutting the palm fronds while squad B went and delivered the palm fronds and then had them unloaded at the place we were supposed to go set them up. Well, this wasn't too far from, I think what happened was the people that held the Monokai in the past, Whittier wasn't as developed as it was when we started doing it. So that part was like uninhabited, or maybe there's only a couple neighbors, a couple residents. But by the time we got around to doing it, there was a lot of houses there and a lot of nice houses. So I'm sure that one of the neighbors saw this, big old U-Haul truck with a bunch of guys wearing like dark clothing and hauling all these palm fronds in the back of the. So it looks suspicious. They called the cops. Cops showed up.
Yeah, and in hindsight, if we were way smarter, we would have just put up some like fake like city signs and pretended we were city workers or something. We could have disguised that all much better, but yeah, we just didn't think we were gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to go low budget, you could have even just bought like, I guess, paper that looked like palm fronds and put that around the. But we were like, no, we want to do the full legit, authentic palm fronds. We've done it before. So
you needed the real life palm fronds to make that subtle transition from like underground rape dungeon to fun party atmosphere.
Yeah,
it really added that little extra oomph to the ambiance.
Yeah. So I believe it was Aaron, Christian Bolliker, who were the other two?
Lawrence
Franklin,
and Christian Barron.
And Christian, so both Christians. Okay, so those four guys.
Oh, I forget. Yeah, you weren't there, were you?
No, I was still at home base. I was doing all. I was.
Do you want me to tell this part?
Sure.
Because I was indeed present.
All right.
So yeah, we're there. We've got we've got little like clippers, and we've got these big palm frond cutters. So it's like basically like a sickle blade at the end of a long pole, and you can pull a string and it'll kind of cut the palm fronds off, because some of them are high off the ground. And we're just working away in the dead of night by this abandoned reservoir when this Whittier police squad car comes like full, like lights on, like blaring up, like skids to a stop. We're just like, wow, what the fuck's going on? Like, I get maybe someone had a heart attack. I literally, when it happened, it took me a second. I'm like, oh no, wait, they're here for us?
Yeah.
And like it was this one young police officer, Officer Goodman, who was his name was Officer Goodman. He was Hispanic though.
Yeah.
Because I guess in all the tellings you didn't realize that. You just assumed.
No.
You're like no, this young Hispanic guy, and he was so excited. Like this was his big bust. Like he draws on us for one.
He drew his gun out?
Yeah, like I don't think he pointed at us, but like he pulled it. I remember thinking like, what is happening? He's like, everyone, like on the ground, and to his credit, Lawrence did not hesitate. Lawrence was just flat on the ground, like you ever seen those like cartoons where there's like just a smoke cloud from where they used to be?
Uh-huh.
That's how quick he got on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm just like looking at him like, dude, is this guy serious? And then he's like, get on the ground. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he's serious. So,
by the way, just because it adds a little spice to the story you're telling, Lawrence Franklin is an African American fellow, so he was like, "Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do here."
his full name, if I recall, is Lawrence Tolliver Franklin.
Okay,
so that's just that is a no, that's a especially black name.
Okay, all right.
What?
Okay.
I'm trying to support your
sure.
addition.
So continue with your story. He hides. Cops get there. They draw their guns.
You know what? Let's while we're on the subject, let's just cover all the ethnicities because it doesn't come into play later.
Sure.
I'm white. Christian Bollicker is possibly even whiter than I am. If that's like, I didn't think that was possible, but yeah. And then Christian Barron was he's what, half Mexican, half.
He's fair skinned, but I think he's full Mexican. I think he's just fair skinned.
So anyway, we're like on the ground. This guy's like pacing back and forth. He goes back to his squad car. He's calling like, I need backup. Like there's a theft in progress. Like I've apprehended them, and he
apprehended the suspects.
Oh my god, he's so excited, and we're just like sitting there like, is this all real? And then comes this awkward moment where we're just like laying on the pavement. He's waiting for his backup to come, and he doesn't know what to do. So he starts like pacing around. He's like, do you even know what you're stealing? And we're like, palm fronds? He's like, yeah, but what species?
What?
Yeah, and we're like, we don't know what species of palm fronds. And I swear to God, he made something up. I can't remember what he said. And I just remember thinking, bullshit, you don't know what species this is. And then he's pacing more. He starts like looking. He's taking all of our names down, and he gets to Christian Barron, and Christian goes, Christian Barron, and he's kind of like looking at him, and he's like, "Are you sure that's not Christian Barron?"
Yeah. Like, no, I'm right because I'm the cop, and you're wrong. You don't know your own last name.
Well, and he just used. I mean, like I think he may have even rolled the R. I can't do the full
Barron.
Yeah, exactly, and just like overemphasize it. And Christian's just looking. He's like, no, it's Christian Barron.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I know my own name, Officer Goodman. He didn't say that, but
yeah.
And then he's oh, and I remember when we first got on the ground, he asked us. He's like, so do you have weapons? And we're like, no. And he's like, no weapons. And I'm like, what? And I really needed to keep my mouth shut a little bit more during this whole interaction. But I'm like, yep, just these palm front cutters. and the most infamous line for me of the whole night was like right before the backup comes. He's just kind of looking, because we've got a huge pile of them in the back of this moving truck, and he's looking at them. And he's looking back at us. He's looking at the palm fronds. He looks back at us. And he's like, "Boys, I don't know what the going street rate for palm fronds is, but you might be looking at grand theft." We're just like, what the fuck? The street. This is not like pure heroin, buddy. This isn't cocaine. It's fucking palm fronds.
There is no black market for palm fronds, unfortunately.
You just go into a back alley in Pico Rivera, and they've just got all these like palm fronds under a tarp.
Yo, can I buy a kilo of palm fronds, bro?
So finally the backup shows up, right? And they're older officers, and they just we didn't learn how much of a tool bag this dude was until later. And just to flash forward, somebody saw Officer Goodman on an episode of Cops.
Yeah.
There was an episode of Cops
many years later
in Whittier, and he wasn't involved in it at all. Like, he wasn't in the squad car that they were filming, and he just sort of like showed up and was walking around in the background.
Yeah,
because he wanted to be on TV. Like, this guy clearly signed up to be a cop because he's like, I will be a hero to the world, and then he's busting college kids on prom fronts. So these two older officers show up, just looking with they have this like, what the fuck am I doing here look.
Yeah.
And yeah, like he goes over to them. He's all excited. He's like, yeah, I apprehended them. They say they're stealing all this stuff for a party. And this older officer, like gray mustache, is just like rolling his eyes before.
He probably, okay, put it this way. The cop probably knows.
Mondo, let me finish.
Okay.
Fuck. Yeah, Officer Goodman goes over to him and says, they say it's for this party, and this older cop just like looks at him and goes, yeah, it's called Monokai. They do it every year.
Yeah, so the cop knew about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, and he was just like, dude, what? And in hindsight, he was just like, you fucking asshole. You know how much paperwork you just made for us?
Yeah.
So that was sort of the end of it. Those cops.
You guys get booked.
We did not get. They gave us like a citation.
Oh, okay.
And so, because we didn't have to go to jail or anything.
So meanwhile,
they just impound the truck. So all of our palm fronds are gone.
Yeah.
They take the truck. They're just like, don't cut any more palm fronds down in the middle of the night and send us on our way.
So meanwhile, that's happening back on home base. The rest of us are like setting up like 2x4s around, like basically the 2x4s are what holds up the palm fronds, basically the structure, the framework, if you will, for the walls and the floor and all this where the sand is going. So the rest of us are doing like some of the other labor stuff back at the garage, and after like an hour or two, we're like, where are these guys? We start calling them and calling each guy's different cell phone number or whatever beeper. I don't know what the fuck we had back then, but we're trying to get a hold of this group. And no one's answering, no one's returning the call. We're like, we're kind of worried, and all I remember from our perspective is these guys getting there. I don't know how they get there, but they're all dirty. They all look like bummed, depressed, and we're like, what? Like we're kind of upset at them for not like picking up the phone. We're like, what? Where were you fucks? What's going on? And then
if we had reached for a phone, we would have literally gotten shot by Officer Goodman.
Yeah. So these guys start recounting what had happened, and we're like, what the fuck? We couldn't believe it that all this shit had happened. These guys are, and you know what? The whole time we're stressing, we're sweating. We're really like, the group that was picking up the palm fronds, it's not like it was like light, intense. It was heavy yard work is what it was. These palm fronds weren't light. The rest of us were doing heavy, sweaty, intensive stuff. We were up till like, if I recall correctly, we were up till like 2 in the morning or so. Tired as fuck. Everyone kind of scattered, went their own way. And Christian Bolliker, one of the people that got cited, and myself, like decided to just pass out in the parking garage. We're like, fuck, we gotta be at Home Depot at 6 o'clock in the morning, like a few hours. We may as well just fall asleep here, crash for a few hours, wake up and go do the rest of our work. Fast forward, we have a Monokai. He goes out without a hitch. It's a fucking awesome.
This is the part where I was most frustrated because if you recall, we had palm fronds for that Monokai, lots of them.
Yeah.
Do you know how we got them?
The school, Whittier College, gave us some, didn't they?
I just went to one of the maintenance guys and was like, hey, like we almost got arrested for taking palm fronds. Like, do you know where I can get any? And he's like, oh, sure. Like, we prune the palm fronds on campus all the time. I'll just go cut a bunch of them for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? Our alumni are fucking dumbasses.
Yeah.
Why did we listen to them? We could have maintenance would have done all this work for us. That's where they came from. Maintenance just cut down a bunch of them and delivered them for us.
So we made do with everything we had. We had a good time. Monokai went awesome. Was it that very Monokai that Goodman had to work the party, or was it like an erotic city?
No, that was erotic city.
It was a different party. Anyway, so that's almost the end of that story.
Oh, there's a lot more to that story.
Where do you want to pick up?
Well, there's two kind of epilogues. First is we all got summons to go to court.
Okay, so yeah, I remember that. So before you get to that part, party's over. We have to take some of this Hawaiian themed, tiki themed decorations back to a store where we normally buy or rent all of our stuff, called Oceanic Arts. That's in the city of Whittier. It's not there anymore. I think they went out of business. So I forget who. I think it may have been Christian Bolliker, myself, and a couple other guys were like taking back all this shit back to the store. And I was wearing a Monokai shirt or a Lancer shirt or something, and I think Bolliker was too. We're walking in, taking all this stuff back to the store, and one older gentleman notices the shirts. He's like, hey, are you guys Lancers? And we're like, yeah. He's like, Lancers from Whittier College. Like, yeah. Like, oh, I was a Lancer. Like, really? So we exchanged information and started telling the story of Grand Theft Palmfront about how like our guys just got in trouble 2 nights ago or whatever from fucking whatever. And he's like, so he took our name and number, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna look into it for you guys. Like I'll see if what I can do. I'll keep in touch with you guys. So we didn't know if he was like connected or if he was full of shit. We didn't know who this guy was. I think he was an attorney of some kind, and I'm forgetting his name. Fast forward, you guys get summoned to go do your court date.
Yeah. Well, so none of this was communicated to us. I didn't know that anyone was looking into anything for us. All I know is during the summer, we all individually got summons, and we had to show up in, I can't remember what month it was, like July, August. And so it's like people had to come in from all over. Like Christian had to come in from Colorado. Like we all meet up. I was definitely a little nervous. I'm like, oh fuck, we're like, at the time the whole Grand Theft Fraud thing was funny.
Yeah, and now you're like, fuck, I have to go in front of a judge. This could be some serious shit.
Oh yeah, and we're all dressed up. We're wearing like jackets and shirts and ties and everything. And it says on the summons like what our time is, and we go into the court, and there's like this initial check place, and they're like, and we're trying to like check in. And by the way, this was like maybe 11 o'clock in the morning at the Whittier court. We were the best dressed people by far.
Yeah.
This was a rough looking group of individuals that are waiting for these court dates. There were certainly some wife beaters. I think a couple grills were involved, and this is us four college guys just like, oh,
yeah,
we're gonna go in. So we go to check in, and they're like, oh, that's we don't have this case on file. And we're like looking, and they look at our summons, and they're like, no, it definitely says that you're supposed to be here. You need to go to the county clerk's office. Like, they'll have the record there. And it's in the same building. So we're like, okay, all right. So we we shuffle through the building. We find our way to the county clerk's office. We give them the summons, and like they go back and they're looking through all their records, and like, I don't know. I'm getting kind of nervous, but also hopeful. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. And they come back and they're like, this is weird. We can't find any record of this either. You need to go to the Whittier PD. This is where this was filed.
They're the ones that cited
they'll definitely have it.
Yeah.
So we're like, and remember, so we have to go out of the courthouse, and we had this like little like powwow before we go over to the police station. We're like, do we really want to do this? Like, do we want to walk into the Whittier PD and be like, hey guys, you remember?
Remember us?
Dumb fucks. Could you get the paperwork so we can go to court?
Yeah.
And we're like, no, we have to. Like, we don't have warrants out for arrest for over palm fronts.
Yeah.
So we go into Whittier PD, and we're at the front desk, and we hand over the summons, and they're like they go back like into the back. They're gone for a while. And I'm just like, oh fuck, like what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And they finally after it must have been like 20-30 minutes, this lady at the front desk comes back. She's like, this is the weirdest thing. I don't have any record of this either. And we're just all looking at each other, and I'm like, all right, like the courtroom, the county clerk's office, and the Whittier PD have no record of any of this. I think we're in the clear.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, and we just bounce out. And yeah, we didn't know any of this stuff about someone intervening.
Well, Bolliker did, because Bolliker was one of the guys that helped me return all that
then
stuff.
He forgot to mention it.
He forgot to mention it to you guys for sure then. So yeah, was there anything more to that?
Yes.
Okay.
There's epilogue number 2.
Okay.
So this was in the summer. Fast forward to the following fall. And this is when like we've got a small house in a residential neighborhood very close to Whittier, and
we're
like
across the street from the school, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and we're having like our first. I think it was our first real party, and it's going pretty well. But I kind of get to the point where I'm like, yeah, this is probably time to try to send everyone home.
Yeah, it's getting late. It's still loud,
and I can't remember if there was either a cop car down the street or I might have just called. And you know what? Let's say I called for the purpose of the story. I called the police on our own party and just was like, I was just like, hey, I just want to let you know, like there's a party at this address. Like I'm gonna be sending home people, but if there's a car in the area and you want to like help us get these dumb college kids out of our house before it's an issue and you have to come. That'd be great. And they were like thrilled. They're like so nice. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. There's like a car down the street. Like we'll send them over. These two cops show up in a great mood. They're like so happy. They're like, hey, this looks great. This looks like the type of party I attended when I was in college. Like so jovial. And then enter a very, 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 very drunk Christian Bollicker. And like, if you can picture, this is all, if you, there's like a small driveway just to the right of the house. And there's like apartment buildings a little bit farther on. There's people in the apartment buildings looking on. The officers are about to make their way into our backyard via the driveway. And that's when they are intercepted by Christian Bollicker. And he's like, hey. I'm just like, and I'm trying to shush him. I'm like, dude, no, it's fine. It's fine. Stop. Leave it. And he's like, no. I got something to say to these guys. And I'm like, no, no, Christian. and they find this hilarious. And they're like, no, let him talk. I got to hear this. And he's like, hey, do you guys know Officer Goodman? And there's this like moment of hesitancy. They're like, yeah, we know him. Why? Because I think they're like, what did this fucking idiot do? Like, and Christian and just peak drunk Christian form is like, well, there was this little incident with some palm fronds. And their faces light up like a kid at a birthday party. They're like, you're the palm frond guys? Yeah. So it was like they were meeting a local celebrity for the first time. Yeah. And Christian's like, yeah, that's us. And they're like, oh my God, like, that's great. You're the palm frond guys. And Christian's like, please tell me you fucked with them after that. And they were like, okay, we were trying to figure out how to steal the truck out of impound and park it on the front lawn of the police department. And he's like, but what we actually did was we just made like hundreds and hundreds of printouts of palm fronds and we posted them all over the precinct. So when he came in, there's just palm fronds everywhere. And they did not arrest us. Christian did not verbally assault them. And then they did send everybody on their way, and that was the final epilogue of Grand Theft Frond.
Yeah, and that was the story. Yeah, I just wanted to address that. Yeah, it was strange coincidence that the day we were taking everything back, we bump into a Lancer alumni who literally took care of it for us and never I'm sure we tried to reach out to him afterwards.
We think. We don't know the real. Do we?
Yeah, I'm positive one of us would have made an attempt to like go reach out to him and thank him at least, because it literally it was erased off the record, and there was no way that guy did not have something to do with it.
I mean, I think it is possible that the actual like non-dickhead officers were like, dude, like, no, we're not.
Yeah. We don't want to write. This is too much paper. This is bullshit. You're a fucking idiot. Goodman.
And it's like, it's just this makes everybody look bad.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna just pretend this didn't happen.
Tax dollars to fucking collect some fucking vegetation, you fucking douchebag. Anyway,
I wonder what they did do with all the palm fronds.
Who knows?
There's a whole fucking truck full.
They probably had a party themselves, a little mini Monakai. They used our palm fronds to have a party themselves.
It would have been amazing if they'd taken the actual palm fronds from the truck and put them around the winter PT.
Yeah. That was it for the our inaugural edition of Degenerate Tales. That was it for the podcast. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No.
Neither do I. Thank you guys for watching.
You know what I do? You know, wherever you're out there, shout out to Officer Goodman.
Yeah,
you're a hero to no one.
Seriously, dude. You shame on you, sir. Shame. Anyway, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in a week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.